to carry on discussing CCDE or evolving technologies, and Cisco made it easy for us actually by pushing most of the evolving technologies into the CCDE exam. So it made the choice easy for you. So you should sit for the CCDE and you will be able to learn both. Yeah, just.
So we got to have fun with life, right? We're getting close to the end of the 2020. Let's just put that in perspective, right?
Goodness,
we got almost a year. Wow, a year. I would hate for another year of 2020. We got almost a week left of 2020. So that is just something to be excited about. And then we have so much to talk about with all the different, well, not a lot of necessary changes, but some impactful changes to the CCDE program and the process and the framework. So I think we have a lot that we can.
Thank you, Zig. And as we mentioned, we already prepared for a session to carry on with what we discussed in part 1, but today we'll keep it open. So mainly because the big news which happened 2 days ago, it depends on your time zone, 1 day or 2 days ago, about the new changes on CCDE version 3. So maybe we allocate more time for that. So before we start, if you tell us about briefly about these changes on CCDE, I suggest maybe we can start by giving an overview, and then maybe we can have like a couple of minutes from each of the panelists explaining how these changes would affect the CCDE and how to get prepared for them. So take it over, Zig.
Yeah. Hey, Mohammed, thanks. And hey, welcome all the panelists, thank you guys all for joining as always. And thank you everyone else for the attendees for joining too. So hopefully we'll knock out your questions. Again, I want to make sure if you have questions, put them in chat. Make sure you ask your question on this webinar so that we can make sure we can answer it. If we don't have the answer, we will find it. I promise you. And we'll let you know what the answer is after the fact if we don't have it on the fly here. So Mohammed, your question kind of highlight the changes, right? So, and first off, I want to say, and I think a few of us have already kind of said it on social media, I personally love the changes. I love about 95% of the changes to the CCDE version 3, and I'll make sure I'll send out the link if you don't have it of all the changes. I think there's a lot of potential concerns around the old version of the CCDE, because I can call it the old version now. One of those being brand protection. We had some issues a couple years ago with the CCDE and keeping the information kind of secure, keeping that certification at a very coveted level. And so a lot of the changes, I think, are really focused on keeping that certification at that level, keeping it kind of brand protected, the moving of the certification from doing the person view professional center testing locations to a Cisco facility like the CCIE. So now, if you want to take the CCDE, you go to the Cisco location versus going to a person view professional location. So a totally different aspect of the certification. But if you're familiar with going and taking a CCIE, it'll be the same process for you, right? You're still going to be going to a Cisco location and taking the CCDE there versus going to a person view professional location. As for content, I think having an option is beneficial, right? Like if I am more focused on service provider, I can do large scale networks, which are service provider networks, right? I can do large scale networks, and that could be my focus, right? That can be my focus. I can knock that out. And that's vendor agnostic. I want to make that very clear. That's a vendor agnostic option. So if you're focused on Juniper, if you're focused on whatever other vendor solution, right? As long as you know the high level concepts and technologies, and you know how to design, you know how to compare those technologies and make design decisions, that'll be a perfect option for you to take. Now, for those of you that are Cisco focused, where maybe data center and security are your kind of realm of area of expertise, well, now you have the option of picking those kind of scenarios, and it will be Cisco specific. And that's fine for those that might want those Cisco specific kind of areas. So I think all in all, like I said, I think I said it on Twitter or LinkedIn, I think 95% of the changes I'm extremely happy about. And I'm going to just open it up, I guess, back to Mohammed and the rest of the group on what their thoughts are.
See, I'm interested in the 5%, Zig, but we'll come to that in a bit. I mean, I've got to be a little bit careful here because I'm on the CCIE Advisory Council, and we're involved with a lot of the discussions earlier on in the process of how we've arrived at where we are. So there's NDA, but given the announcements, obviously we've this stuff being public. I think the important thing that we were looking to do was a couple of things. One is you've already mentioned the actual exam process and making sure that it's more flexible than we've got at the moment, right? At the moment, they're tied to this once every 3 months thing. Because it's using public facilities, they've got to be a lot more careful about the security of the exam and so on and so forth. And so bringing it in-house means it gives Cisco more flexibility with how they do that. I think what the plan is still to have it as controlled, in the sense of it only being offered on certain dates through the year. So whereas with the CCIE at the moment, you can have that on pretty much any day. There'll be a limited set of dates that are available to sit the DE, but because it's in-house, because there's more flexibility about offering more dates in a year rather than it at the moment just being the four dates for the practical. So I think that was really important that the guys wanted to do that. But the other thing is this idea of the flexibility and the modularity of it, because taking an exam like the DE, which is so big and so broad, and trying to keep it up to date and whatever, this is where the evolving technologies piece came from in the first place. In the certification, was that there was this bit that they could say, right, okay, well, we'll keep updating this bit regularly. The bulk of the exam is going to have to stay pretty rock solid, sort of year on year almost, because it's because of being able to change it all is just too much. So, but because of the modularity that they're introducing into all of the rest of the portfolio, the idea was very much to try and do the same as to an extent within the DE. The problem with that, of course, is that someone who sits the DE needs the overall visibility of the whole piece, by and large. So it was a case of balancing not too much modularity, because you still wanted everyone to have that broad grounding of technologies. So what they've done, and if you've had the chance to have a look, there are now a number of technology blueprints. There's a core technology blueprint which will basically form up, I think, if I've got this right, and I might not have, but I think it's 3 scenarios of the 4 in the practical exam will come from the core technologies. The remaining 1 will be then selected from the optional other technologies. And at the moment, I think they've got cloud, so that's data center and cloud. There's large scale networks, which is the service provider stuff, and the other one is mobility work,
enterprise.
You got it.
Which actually I think that's a masterstroke actually this year. If you think about the changes that have happened through the year, of all of a sudden you've got a mobile workforce, to bring that in and to brand it mobile workforce mobility or whatever sort of ties really neatly to the sort of the way things are today. But the point being that they can effectively introduce other of these modules in order to push people into a particular direction. And the way that looks to me is that it will fit with this whole badging idea that people have been using for certifications over the last couple of years, where you'll get a CCDE, but you'll also have a badge of, oh, I'm a large network designer, or I'm a mobility designer, or I'm a cloud designer, whatever it is, and that just it allows you to differentiate, I suppose, if you versus another DE. So, look, hey, I've luckily I've been around this for a little while and been seeing where this is going, and I think it's a really, really great approach. I think it's really positive. I think it's great that so much focus has arrived on it. And this week in particular, seeing the reaction and seeing how many people are engaged with those changes has been phenomenal. I think that's been really, really good, because I think more interest in the program, the better. And I realised I've just been blathering on for a whole load of minutes there, and I'm going to step back and let someone else.
No, that was good, Daren. That was great. I'm gonna tee this over to Stuart for a minute. Before I do, I want to add one thing I forgot to say. I mean, so this whole entire webinar, right? This is part 2. We're talking about CCD or evolving technologies. You know, what do you need to do, right? Well, if you look at the core list of topics, automation was added to the CCDE, right? Look at it, right? You'll see automation like CI/CD, Ansible, like, I mean, you name it. There's some core content that would be evolving technologies, DevNet focused, that are now part of the CCD blueprint. So I'm going to tee this over to Stuart here. I mean, what are your thoughts, man? I mean, they've embraced DevNet here in terms of the CCD moving forward. What are your thoughts, buddy?
Yeah, I think it's really cool. And I wanted to echo what Daren said. Daren said a lot of really, really positive things there, to which, I wholeheartedly agree with. I took a look at the blueprint for both, the written and the exam. And, the one obviously that really jumped out to me is Domain 2.0, which is the control data and management plane design part as well. And then you kind of scoot all the way down to, I think it's area 5, where they're talking about automation, orchestration, and design. They've got about talking about ongoing support for networks as well, interfacing with APIs and model-driven management, controller-based technologies, which super excited to hear about. Would be really interested to see which controller-based technologies we're talking about there, because obviously we have NSO, we've got Crossword, we've got SD-WAN, we've got Cisco DNA Center. There's a couple that come into that. But the key part on that one is the evolution of CI/CD framework. And that I'm really jazzed about. I really, really am excited about this one. I think this is a really, really good concept, a really good thing to put in. I think it's something that everybody should be looking at within their network, within their infrastructure, within their daily flows as well. It's kind of like once you go CI/CD, you never go back. And I should get that as a sticker on the car, really. on the back. But yeah, super excited about a lot of the things that have been added in there as well. So it'll be interesting to see how, when we get a little bit further in here, what's going to be the examples here? What's going to be the kind of the use cases? What are we going to be expecting people to do when they're doing these exams? That's always a big question. It was a similar thing when the DevNet certification came out. People were asking, well, what am I going to be expected to do in the exam? What am I going to be expected to know? These things start to kind of bubble up pretty much in the same way when we released the blueprint for the DevNet certifications. People were coming over them and looking into them and seeing what they needed to know and how they could start to sort of like absorb all of this information to get the best out of the blueprint and prepare them for taking the exam.
Exactly. We'll get back to that point, Stuart, which is really important, how the CI/CD, and some people even start adding CI/CD, CT, CV, continuous validation, continuous testing. So it's a big topic, and we can see, you give us some hints about some resources which people preparing for CCDE can start using. Till I believe Cisco will have a couple of webinars to highlight these changes and what are the good resources to prepare for the changes. So I will direct the question to Orhan. Orhan, when I got the news, I printed this blueprint and I start analyzing it. So I want you to give us in a couple of minutes, from technical perspective, what are the areas which have been added to the CCDE? So, as example, as we agreed, we'll have the core topics. In addition, you have 3 optional passes you can take: large scale or mobility, and then the last one is cloud and data center. So, quickly, can you give us what are the technology added in each of these?
In fact, what I've seen, cloud, wireless, I see mobility and automation and programmability, but people maybe were not aware. All of them was there. And I think three years ago, I was talking with Yusuf in Orlando, I think in Cisco Live. So exactly about this. So cloud has been in the practical exam, and they have been asking questions from the cloud for many years, guys. So
Yeah.
just let me make it clear here. But automation, especially, they were not mentioning name like Python or Ansible, but now they are mentioning. You can see on the website as well. So, but it shouldn't be for the CCDE, I mean, designer or architect shouldn't be like depth knowledge. And because in the part one, we also talked about, okay, network design and architecture means technical breadth, not the depth. So I don't have to be Python developer. So we don't need to know those languages as the detail like Stuart, okay? Or maybe even software people. So we don't need to. But high level, in which job we should use Ansible versus Python or vice versa. Those kind of things should be known. And by the way, let me tell you something. Last year, CCI routing switching was changed. And the name is CCI Enterprise Infrastructure now. And since 1 year, we have been teaching those parts from both operation and design aspect. Those who don't know, maybe CCI Enterprise now, almost 4 hours or 30% is design-based. So you need to know those automation tools, and not only from the operational aspect, so you need to write the script, but also from design aspect. What's the problem for the CCDE people now? Just to know from the design aspect, so you will not write any script, so you will not configure any device with those tools. But you need to know in which case we should use which one and why. Okay, so that's the point. I think I saw automation and programmability is 10%. Am I correct? 10%, I think, or 15, something like that. 10%, I think. Yes. So approximately for the practical exam, then, if I would say like 25 to 35 questions, guys, you see in the exam, depends on the length of the scenarios, etc. So probably I would expect to see 10 to 15 questions overall in 4 scenarios. Are they changing the 4 to 3? I didn't see that. Still 4 scenarios as far as I know.
Still 4 scenarios, yeah.
4 scenarios. By the way, someone asked in the chat window, will there be 3 exam, 4 exam, or every day can you take an exam? At the moment, nothing changed for that. Up to 2019, we had 4 exam dates per year. In 2019, it was, sorry, 2019 and at least 2020 also. It was 3, but 2021, it seems 2 so far announced. But I am expecting more than 2, probably 3 or 4. I talked to Mark, CCD program manager. Of course, he can give if there is any change later on, he can give the Cisco people, better update. We should follow them as well. But last update, there is no change for the number of dates, by the way. So far, what I can say then, those automation and programmability, only the newly mentioned technical point of view, the topics. Otherwise, cloud was there. Question was coming. Wireless LAN, mobility questions were coming anyway. But a little bit now, design point of view, we need to understand, we need to learn, right? If you are not already familiar. That's why I have been saying last 1 year, people, even if you are CCD or existing CCI route switch, please join to this training, my training or anyone else maybe training, whatever you like. Research, and because now automation last 1 year was very critical part in the CCIE enterprise infrastructure exam, the new name for the RNS. Yeah,
100%.
Sorry, can I just and I just want to pick up on what something Orhan was talking about there was around the automation piece. That automation, we all know, a critical part now of network operations. But the point with the implementation side of things in the CCIE is that this is low-level design. These design aspects that have appeared in the IE. The DE is always going to be about high-level design, about architecture, about the bigger picture. And so really, what we're talking about from my perspective on the automation front isn't the idea of what mechanics do I use to automate some things. It's more about how that automation fits with the way that you operate your network, the process, and that again, the bigger picture of how you might want to operate your network. You might think about things like self-service, think about things like integrating tool sets and those sorts of things, and about how then you choose automation technologies in order to enable that sort of thing. I think it is the bigger picture view. I'm just looking at the unified exam topic. So the way they've issued the syllabus for this is there's the 4 blueprints in terms of technologies. Yes. And then you've got this unified exam topics, which gives you the sort of overview of each scenario will incorporate, these elements or whatever. Yeah. Service design is the 15% that we were talking about, and that service design is talking about the automation approach, the whether you're using, what compliances you need, what data governance you are, the CI/CD stuff that we've just talked about before that Stuart mentioned. It's service design, which, do you know what? This is something that has been missing from the way we approach stuff from the year dot, because now what we're getting to a point where the network isn't just about getting bits and packets from one place to another. It's about assuring a service and providing availability for the systems that use it. And so service design is probably, and this might upset people, but it's probably the most important thing that we do as a network designer, because you've got consumers of the network who need a service and they need availability. And what our job is to do is to make sure they get it. That's what we're here for. So if we're not able to prove that they're getting it and wrap a service design around the environments that we build, then what we build is almost pointless. And I think this is why I think looking at this, this isn't just about taking the technologies and taking it on a step, but actually looking at what the output is of being a network designer has kind of just stepped up a little bit. I think, I think just one last point, Mohammed, sorry. There's something else happened this week, which hasn't got as much coverage. The CCAR, which was the architect level qualification, which sat at the very top of the tree, has now gone. Okay, as of next year, that will not exist any longer. What I think you'll find is some of the elements from that CCAR have actually fed down and into the DE, and so now the DE has taken almost that step up a little bit to say, well, actually, the top of the tree is the designer, because without the designer, nothing that sits below it will.
That is correct, and I was saying that now because there is no, maybe you are not aware, there was not CCAR for last couple of years. So because there is no CCAR, it's AR mean, by the way, those who don't know, maybe it's okay, architecture exam of the Cisco. So it was purely architecture, which means lots of integration as well you were managing, and even less, maybe we can say technical depth, but more breadth. So you need to understand from the other systems as well, because networks interact with the other systems. That's the idea. Now we are seeing exactly those architectural knowledge, information down in the CCDE exam as well, which means, can you expect, let's be real, can you expect less technical and more business side of the things? Yes, that's what I am expecting. That's what I am expecting.
I just wanted to add, and I agree with you, Orhan and Daren, CCDE is more like the mindset, and as we always, even when I talk to a couple of my students or my colleagues, that it's like a paradigm shift. You need to change your mindset, how you think about the solution. You should be business-oriented, thinking about services. And something, when you start talking about service design, Daren, came to my mind. I'm doing also some work in 5G, and 5G, how did it differentiate it than 4G? 4G and 3G was more about connectivity. 5G, they call it SBA, service-based architecture. So even 5G, for them, it's mainly about services. To serve the enhanced mobile broadband, completely different than serving vehicle to vehicle or serving IoT and so on. So this is a key mindset you need to be aware when you sit for the CCDE.